own Government Access, Channel 9, from the City Hall Council Chambers. It's time once again for the Taxpayers Hotline Show. And now, ladies and gentlemen, your host.
They put the wide camera lens on today.
Oh, of course, gotta get all of us.
No. We've had 4 on here at one time. Well, here we are. This is Councilman Kaz-Kwiatkowski with
Dave Paradisa from Cat TV.
And as I promised, we have our special guest.
I am John Buckner from the Erie Downtown Partnership.
That's what they call it now. I call it Downtown Improvement District.
Improvement District. I mean, literally the NID Act of 2000 allowed, within our state, allowed organizations like us to exist across the Commonwealth. So it's a Downtown Improvement District or a Business Improvement District, NIDS or BIDS for short. So we were, once the Erie Downtown Improvement District, now did a name change back in 2009 to the Erie Downtown Partnership.
Ours is kind of big compared to some, but
traditionally there's 7 to 10 blocks. Ours is 70, so it does have a little bit broader area for us to cover.
That gives you a big area to work out of then.
It does. It creates opportunities and challenges.
And I think it's fair to say, and John's heard, in the back room, there's more people that want to come in.
Yeah.
Say that again?
There's a couple areas that want to come in.
Oh yeah. We have.
I want to expand to other areas then.
Well, to me, that's the ultimate compliment. Is that if we're providing the service we need to be doing to complement what the city's doing, and that's our mission. We are here to help the city in its efforts to rebuild, revitalize our downtown and the community as a whole. And by them wanting to be part of us, that means we're doing some things right.
Well, it's nice. When I was young, in college and stuff, they always had groups of downtown businessmen.
Correct.
But
merchants associations.
Right. But they lacked what you guys got. And the public doesn't really understand it. We get a lot of questions, and I explained to them, I said, the merchants actually pay an extra tax.
They do.
The city we just pass it through.
Correct.
And, you got your own board.
Yeah, to your point, Kaz, the business and property owners are the ones that want our organization. To your point, they do pay for it, and it is a service, so we always have to make sure that we're delivering, that we're providing the value back to them so that we can exist and making a difference. The premise is basically safety, cleanliness, and friendliness. And there's an element of the greenness of it too, through trees and greeneries. But it's through programs and stuff that we support them.
It's picked up by I could tell a little bit, like the lighting. People still complain about the lighting, but at least they've attacked it a little bit.
They have, and we have. You think the city has made some investment, and we have plans. We have our plan and the city's comp plan, and the region's emerge plan. But we have plans to do more. And, with this current administration and the administration that's upcoming, whomever one of those candidates will be, again, these plans are here for us to look to implement and to continue to make the community better.
And it's confusing. If you read the paper, you think that nothing is happening.
Yeah, they don't put a whole much in the paper of what actually is going on.
Well, they're mad at us because we haven't had these meetings but what they don't understand is like people like John have already been meeting and keeping council aware of it, that trying to coordinate all these plans, I think. Am I right in saying
that's absolutely correct.
So that, your plan and Gannon's plan don't chew each other up.
Well, the biggest thing here is called communication. And of course, there's the commitment to the community itself, but there's been us and many others that have literally been planning and talking. And to your point, that's what we need to be doing, because you really do know how you work together. Because we face a lot of the same challenges, but the old adage, 2 heads better than 1, 10, 12, we really can make more progress and quicker progress by working together.
And I think once we get all these groups kind of coordinate, because you got all kind of, people don't realize, you got downtown alone, you got Erie Insurance got a plan, Hammett's got a plan, Gannon's got a plan, everybody's got a plan.
Right, that's the big thing. Each one has their own.
Right,
it's hard to get them all together to work together.
Then you go on the waterfront. They got, Lower Bayfront, the Lower East Side group has a plan. There's all kinds of plans in the making, but sometimes one plan actually hurts another plan.
Right.
So
well, it's also seeing on what all plans are and seeing what ties together.
Yeah, and if by chance there happens to be what one would consider a potential conflict, you know that in advance. So then you work to make it a complement versus a
right, resolve the conflict,
exactly.
Be able to partnership, be able to work together instead of
what I don't think a lot of the community realizes is that for many years, Erie Insurance, Gannon University, and UPMC Hammett have all been meeting themselves.
They're working together.
They've been working together for many years. And, through these plans, they each, to your point, Kaz, they each had their plans, but now these community plans can really start to tie these together. And we tell people they're like lining up dominoes or lining it up and you pull a string and things line upward. And that's literally what's been happening here.
And then to the city's point, we have to be able to deal with whatever issues at all, whether that's traffic problems or new regulations or all the things that makes these plans work. If we're planning to do a street project, and then
you have to let it know ahead of time.
Well, yeah, but then we find out something else is coming in on board, and now you say, okay, gee, that project ain't big enough now. Now we gotta rethink what we're doing.
Right. Well, one prime example is, not just the investments that have been announced, but, the Velocity Net investment was a prime example. This goes back probably almost 2 years ago now, where we were in discussions with Joel to have his headquarters here. But right away he got in touch with the city. So we started coordinating how we can do the investment of the building along with the new streets. And that's what the state and others like, is when you work together.
Oop, looks like they...
I lost the
May have
call
lost
there.
it.
Yeah.
When my call didn't go through.
But, we got a lot... We had a...
Well, that's just it, is figuring out what some of the plans are and what's happening. I mean, I think some of the thing is a lot of the public doesn't know what the plans are yet.
No, everybody's in a hurry. And,
Right.
the plan just got rolled out a year ago. They want us to be out in the neighborhoods. And I'm going, there'll come a time when we'll be out there,
Websites, too. These plans are posted on websites so people can take them.
Go ahead, caller.
Lovely day in the neighborhood.
Yes, Mr. Rogers, where is he?
He was in Pittsburgh. Hey, John.
Yes.
I hear all you people discussing the progress we're making. Erie Insurance, Gannon and all that. Erie Insurance is using their own money and they're getting their bang for their buck, and they pay high taxes. These other outfits want to come in, and they want to get on a nonprofit, and they don't even make a slight contribution to the revenue for the city. What can you do about that?
Well, there have been many contributions to the city, and Kaz can speak to that directly, simply being the past controller, but just because it's not out there that people can see it doesn't mean that it doesn't occur. I know the university and the hospital have made many contributions to the city for services and other improvements that literally, they get that's part of working and being part of these communities. Kaz?
You speak into the mic, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, I think what John wants in the public, though, is they see these like contributions that come every couple of years, but they're looking more like what we have with Vincent and Hammett,
right?
Where we have a set amount of money that we can count on every year. That's when we go to the League of Cities seems to be the biggest problem with municipalities,
Right.
is that why you don't want to tax churches directly, let's say. There still is a problem of public safety.
Correct.
So we're trying to figure out, how do we make up for every time, Gannon grows or, and they take a building off the rolls, that hurts us,
Right, but how many times have there been donations in the form of a fire truck, a new police cruiser, or some other something tangible that
If I was the head of Gannon, I'd gladly give a police cruiser, and that's only $30,000-$40,000. How much real estate and taxable property are they eliminating by giving a slight contribution? This isn't right.
I think if we could get them to say, here's a better idea, okay? How about funding 3 police officers every year? Okay.
Yeah, negotiations like that do occur.
Yeah,
and I know, there's also, what a lot of times that people often forget is...
Oh, the well's drying out here. You can see all the people are exodus from Erie. They're going otherwise where the taxes are cheaper, and you're not paying a double dip. You're paying in Erie County and the Erie City. We're getting double dipped.
Well, you still do out in the county, but I know what you're referring to. You're saying that when the city gives money and the county gives money on many projects,
right,
and Mill Creek doesn't or Summit doesn't, yeah, we pay twice.
Right.
Yeah, that the public want.
No, and we got to remember there's Parade Street too. It's not just State Street from 2nd second up to 14th Street and it's all over.
Well, they actually tried to get a Parade Street group together. I don't know how successful it was. And then the East Avenue merchants, they were, Councilman Mirsky was working with them for a while.
Well, I knew they had the walk and the fascia deals, but a gentleman told me the way the city was giving these grants and all that, they had to get their contractor, and the price was ridiculous. They could go out and do all the sidewalks and the new fascia and all that.
Well, there's a bill right now, John, and that's John too. There's a bill in the House that I think Dan Laughlin put out there, or some other senator, I can't remember. Because when you get money from the Commonwealth or the city through federal funds or state funds, there's a set of rules, John, that we cannot change them. They say you must go with one of their approved contractors. Prime example of that was the arena project.
Right.
They had a list of 5 or 6 consulting engineer groups.
Well, you have to go with their contractors. You're better off doing it yourself.
Right, but then you don't have. Here's the problem. You take a project like I'll give you an example. The Bayfront Connector project. You know, the McBride Viaduct area. That's all going to be, with most of the majority of that money is with state and federal money, and you can bet your boots they're going to use their people and their rules.
Yeah, I can equate back to, I did a lot of work. I worked at the Small Business Development Center at the university for many years, and we always told entrepreneurs and business owners, you have 3 pots of money, A, B, and C. A being you, family and friends, then you have B, traditional lending, and C, non-traditional lending, where your government comes in. And C has the most restrictions, the most, I don't want to use the term red tape,
it does.
But it has regulations and restrictions, and that's the point you're trying to make, Cass.
Well, have you ever seen any of the ADA projects? They're ridiculous, and you got a guy from the state, you got a guy from the feds, and they don't know what they're doing. You come up in my area, you got an ADA ramp that goes right into a concrete wall. What good is that? They're wasting money.
And John, you'll get no argument from a lot of people. We sit up here amazed that, you took the city years ago, they put those ramps in, long before they were popular. And long before they were mandated, only to find out that all of a sudden, we did it wrong. But then you go out to Mill Creek and there are no ramps.
Right.
And so we're putting ramps in places like, with all fairness to you, Dave, I haven't seen anybody using some of these ramps in years yet. Some
of them nobody even knows about them, or they're behind the building, so they can't really get to it very often.
And John,
Look at the boulevards on 38th Street. I never seen one person go with a ramp. And they had to put them in, cut across there, and there's 3 or 4 or 5 of them.
I think they're going to take a little bit of the boulevards out along 38th Street. They haven't given us the final design yet, but I think, at least near CVS, I heard some of them might be going.
Okay, we'll get off the air. I've vented enough of my frustrations, but the well is going dry, I'll tell you. Have a great day.
I think he's also mentioning about, there's a lot of some of the businesses, bigger businesses locally, that are downsizing and are leaving the area.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen more jobs being laid off and people letting go than new business coming into the area, bringing more in.
I mean, John's right. If you go out East 38th Street and you're watching the for sale signs going up.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot more houses on the market, and that's
a lot of
scary.
The problem is a lot of people are aging.
Mm-hmm.
The young kids, for whatever reason, seem to like the suburbs better, and maybe it's a perception or what.
I think a lot of it is a perception, and I think also some of it is they're not. A lot of the kids aren't used to the city.
But it is a problem, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, the other thing is having the kids stay here. I mean, there's not.
Everybody
there's not as much there for people to stay too.
I hear everybody say this. Okay, I come down. I support your city. I come downtown. Yeah, you come downtown. Okay, you come downtown once a week. Okay. But those merchants are down there 5 days a week.
6 days a week,
6 days a week.
Yeah. Too, yes.
Right. They would love your business, instead of going up to the Peach Street area,
Right.
come on down, eat at Cloud 9 or,
I've been asked many, many times, our downtown retail community, we understand the need for a Peach Street or West State Street or other pockets of retail. We get it. I mean, if you look at how...
You have a big box store here in the middle of the city. It's just
right.
not.
Yeah, I mean, but there are communities, though, that box stores are returning to downtowns because they've already saturated suburbia. And you made a comment earlier, a lot of the generation, this generation and the one forthcoming is they want to live in downtowns. And they don't want the headaches and the hassles. No, people, they view it as that. Others don't mind cutting grass or shoveling or plowing snow and the responsibility that comes with home ownership. Others don't want that. They want to eat out. They don't want to cook. They don't want to be burdened with maintenance. So the point is, that audience there is where a lot of this is directionally headed. I mean, my counterparts across the state, I was in Harrisburg pretty much the last month, between that, Reading, and a few other communities. Yeah. You're seeing this massive resurgence of people returning to downtowns and living there for those reasons.
I see a lot, like it's popular. Level Place seems to be very popular for a lot of the smaller apartments and stuff for a lot of the younger community.
Right,
but it's also having places that are affordable for the younger community to be able to afford it. It's the other problem.
Kaz and I were talking earlier, and this is a reality that this community needs to face. It needs to change. These yesterday is gone.
Right.
Period. And I don't care if it's from the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever. The point is, yesterday was yesterday. And as much as I respect it, and there's certain things that I wished were different, but they're not. And another way for us to, create a better environment so that our children and our families want to stay here is we have to create that. Mm-hmm. And we have to work together as a community that'll do just that. And sitting here criticizing each other is not a way of doing so.
Right,
we have to work together. We have to work together to overcome the challenges, because others will do it and then we will still left behind.
Right. Well, the other thing is what's the main direction of downtown? Is it more for a lot of what I see, or I've moved in from I came from Dunkirk, I see is you've got adult stores and bars. That's a lot of what the first aspect of people come down and see. That's not very desirable for, small business owners.
I think you got some nice restaurants, but they're isolated.
Yeah,
right.
But that's what's here today.
Yeah.
And a challenge that we have is building the infrastructure to attract tomorrow's business. And part of that is within the equation is, when a building becomes vacant, how do we as an organization or another organization take control of the building so that you can control who goes within that building? So recently you've been announced the EDDC, the Downtown Development Corporation has been developed with that intent, is that when the opportunity is there, that is one of their missions, is to secure and to improve, to control, to reinvest back in the community. I'm not saying those other businesses are bad. I'm just saying you have to have a balance.
Right, exactly.
Of a better, a more mixture of ones that are desirable from a shopping standpoint versus a dining standpoint. Nothing against dining, but again, it's a balance issue.
And I've seen that in other communities that there's lots of smaller mom and pop stores with different items and such.
You mean downtown?
Well, at other cities.
What we don't have downtown yet, and I do a lot of traveling, but and we almost did it. But if you go downtown, and this is not a condemnation, but you do not have the type of residential living down here yet that supports a lot of things that I think people would like to see. So, meaning, let's say Erie Insurance brings in a lot of their agents, and they dormicize them, I'm going to put them in dormitories, which I think they're planning on doing, right?
That could be part of their plans, correct?
They've talked about like the school of insurance, So these guys are going to be here for a short term. And then you're hopefully, there were plans in the past about keeping doctors down along the Bayfront near Hammett. When things like that happen, business, as I learned from a guy I used to work for, business will come where business is. So
because there'll be people there that would want to.
Like John said,
businesses.
If you got people that are and nothing against what we have downtown now, but we don't have the type of economy that is consistent enough
to attract these other type of people to bring them in the area.
Well, like it's when you had puffer bellies. They did a nice job, but at the end of the day, it's a tough market. Bertrand had 2 stores he was running,
Right.
2 restaurants, very fine, okay? Still has the one. That's what I say, we don't have the Applebee's, we don't have the Longhorn, we don't have the whatever's up on Peach Street, but we got a lot of what I call very nice local restaurants that are downtown, scattered around here.
Yeah, they're in pockets of the areas.
Yeah, and I think if we can get some residential living down here,
Absolutely.
where you're talking about like young adults or even people my age that are calling it a day.
Active.
Yeah, but still you still got some disposable income. I think, like John says, you don't really want to cook that much, okay?
Right.
So you don't mind going down and traversing the street. Bethlehem is a good example. Peoria, Illinois was another one. I saw where they had residential living, and you still had the bars, okay?
Right. Yeah.
But you had levels. You had like, okay, here's where the kids hung out.
Right.
Here's where
Right. It was a diversity.
And I think we're coming there, but
Yeah, and also what people need to realize too, it's not all or another.
Right, yeah, no,
it's called a mixture and a balance. And this is the point we've been making all along is, there's a little bit of an element of the chicken and the egg here, but you need the infrastructure development, need the developers to put the housing there, and then they will come. But with it, then comes the amenities. Kaz has noted here, grocery store, absolutely crucial.
That's what I was going to bring up, because
But there's not just those amenities. Also, there's some entertainment amenities, indoor recreational opportunities, not just dining opportunities, but ultimately
more than that.
Right. A need for an automobile repair, or even the public transportation that exists now. How can we improve that? Parking technology implementation. There's many aspects of improvements
and that will work.
That will work, and that's the infrastructure. That's the chicken and the egg. That we have to embrace this, invest in it, and then with that, you're going to see the business. How did you say that, Kaz? Business draws business.
Business will come where business.
Business will come where business is at, and that's the truth. And we've seen it that's how cities are made. That's
right.
It's pretty much simple.
When I was a kid and the town was 138,000 and the center of the universe, which it was, everything that was pretty much downtown, or scattered through the city. Okay?
Yeah, because then urban sprawl occurred, right? Post World War II. If you really look at history, and that's where the organizations like ours, as urban sprawl, as men and women returned from the war. The Second World War primarily. Suburbia was starting, all right? So they left the vacancies in downtowns. And with that, you had these beautiful historic structures.
Which we tore down in some cases.
And or vacated. So the National Trust for Historic Preservation said, time out here. We've got to do something about this. And they created what they call the Main Street model, which is the model that we follow. And they said if you follow the model, you'll increase your chances of returning people to downtown. And part of it is the reinvestment back into the structures, because you can't let them decay and rot.
Right, yeah, and that's the thing I've seen is like some of the factories and some of the buildings is they've been vacant for so long that they're just kind of falling apart.
We have implemented a facade program improvement. It's an incentive for these owners to reinvest, and facades meaning fronts.
Right.
But it has to be inviting. So there's the entryways, the awnings. It's no different than a front door of somebody who owns their home. But a lot of times the time has eroded some of these beyond repair. But ultimately, if we can salvage, there's the need for new windows and repouring of mortises and inviting awnings and lighting in doorways. But it's programs like that make us successful. But our challenge is how do we keep refunding that pot of money?
Yeah.
And if it's federally related, that just goes back to the caller, there comes that red tape that makes it challenges. You have to hire this or you have to hire that.
Which is why we got to start believing in ourselves. And when people, which we've said here at council, oh, by the way, please feel free to call in if you got a question for John here or any of us. The question we've always had on council was private investment is good.
Absolutely.
Going along with the city, like we're gonna help Nick Scott, okay? Yeah. Just like we're gonna help other projects, and that we help your insurance in different ways with.
Look what Tim Sedney has done on the Bayfront. Tim's done that on his own dime.
I mean,
His investments,
Yes.
his improvements. You on that bayfront, he's doing very well. And kudos to him because he's doing it on his dime, with his investment. But Erie Insurance, again, their investment. And there's others, Joel Duderman's investment. But it takes some momentum, and the momentum is starting, and we really want to make this work for Erie.
I go back to when I remember it was like back in the 70s or 60s, but more like the 70s.
So before I was born.
Well, the train station was a real mess.
Right. I know
Okay?
they've been a mess.
You
for
probably
a while.
remember it, okay? I knew the barber that was in there, and he was the only guy. It was a pass-through for railroad employees. There was nothing in there. They had a ball one night. I remember this. And these women came in and cleaned up what we now call the ballroom part. Mm-hmm. The big, what do they call it?
Concourse?
The room over there where they have all the dinners and all
Well,
that.
I don't call it the ballroom, but you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be I think it's more the concourse area in there.
That's where they were having this ball. So they cleaned it all up. And first time I ever seen it, it was amazing because the place had really, I can't even say over the air some of the stuff that was in there.
Right, I believe it was probably pretty bad.
But, the first guy, he kind of went bankrupt trying to do it. Took 2 or 3 people to get it done. I never thought in my day that I would see what used to be the express part, which is where I think they got the hookah cafe and all that down.
Yeah, there's a few different businesses throughout there now.
So I think, everybody comes up to me and they go, that building along the tracks behind the Times, they make a great, because people go out of town, they see how they've done things.
Right.
And I go, well, here's the problem. We got a county that's losing population. The cities, if we can bring the people back, some of these buildings get repurposed real quick because all of a sudden people look and say, I ain't got time to build a new building. I want to jump on this. So you have the old buildings like the Plymouth Tavern, they get redone, or you get some of these old buildings where you see them out of town,
Well, that old
warehouses get turned into apartments and condos.
the building you're talking about, we started years ago and approached that building to become a market. And even the Griswold Plaza, Andy Cicini, the owner of the Griswold Plaza now, we had many
Which one did
conversations
you
with him.
approach the?
Well, we did Andy through Griswold, and of course the owners of the building across the street. Again, they own it, they control it. It's their desire with what they want to do with it. Andy and I have been to Cleveland and studied their market. You look at a facility, how could you repurpose that facility and make it, the next transformation in the downtown? And I absolutely agree on the west side of Sassafras. But when the owner was unwilling to sell,
Right.
they're at capacity, there's no need for them to change. In that particular case, we can't make that, we can't honor that request. Again, we too had the vision, it would work, but it wasn't vacant to
Yeah, it's more because of
develop.
the business owner that's trying to do something
Right.
with it or doesn't want to do anything with their building.
Right. And again, that's
And
a
I've seen
challenge.
that.
We're
I've
no
seen that
different than other communities. We face those challenges. But it takes private sector development. I think that was part of the topic we were talking about. Having some private sector investors and developers available.
See, I give, like Logistics Plus being in
Look at
Union
Jim.
Station, Jim Berlin's doing a lot with that building. I know the place was falling apart, and,
He rescued it. He literally
Right.
rescued it.
it's still a work in progress. Their business is booming, they're growing.
I could not envision eating a meal in that place 40 years ago.
But look at it now. We had an event right outside those doorsteps.
Yeah.
In fact, I was talking to the staff. That event we had in Griswold Park, I think that may have been one of the very first formal events that's occurred in that park since the park's been redone. And there was a $700,000 investment into that park.
Yeah, that park
Now,
was redone.
in 2011, 10 or 11, I believe. And again, we did it. There was 2,000 plus people in that park last Thursday night. It's glorious. And that transformation of that building, wonderful.
Go ahead, caller. Go ahead, caller.
Oh, hello. Kaz.
Yes.
Kaz?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh,
You got to turn down your TV.
okay. It's way down.
Okay, because we had like a 10-second
Way
delay.
down, Kaz. That's as far as it goes.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Okay, I just want to make a quick comment. A couple shows ago, maybe a month ago, you were talking about getting a supermarket downtown.
Well, here's the man right here.
Okay, Okay, listen, I'm going to tell you something. Think Walmart, Tops Market, Wegmans, all these places, what they all have in common?
They're big corporations.
Huge parking lots. And if you want to put a grocery store downtown, you're going to have to get some buildings tore down or something for parking people. You need parking. They're not going to come.
Well, the two spots that they mentioned.
And that's your problem, unless you can find some place.
Well, not to interrupt you, but the two spots that came up frequently was the Market House down by the Bayfront, which will have a lot of parking with the Civic Center, and John can address the other one.
Yeah, we've been looking to his point. You're right. The key to suburban grocers are parking. They want in excess of 40,000 square feet in ample parking. We did not have that here in downtown, but we have the need for a store. So when EMTA, with their new facility, we approached them about taking the first floor, which is 19,000 square feet, and developing it as the market, which is the grocery.
Right.
The Redevelopment Authority has come in with the first level of parking, which is 120 spaces, and that's public parking. The second and third decks are for EMTA use, and then when they're not using it, it's available. So every market we studied when we went on the road, they said you solved the key issue, and that's parking, and that's what that gentleman is talking about.
Did you hear that, sir?
I couldn't agree more.
Could you hear what John said?
I understand that, but also you got to keep it in the center of town. That's good. You send it down by the Bayfront.
Yeah.
All those people in those high rises, they ain't going to be able to get down there. You got to have a sort of center town for one thing.
And the second point, excuse me for interrupting, sir. The second point, the dozen markets that we talked to, they said the second problem we solved, the other one was parking. The first was parking. The second was it was on a public bus line.
Which this one will be, right?
That's at the hub, because to his point, you have to enable people to get there. You have to enable people to get to it and support it. So you have the commitment from the transit authority to redo routes and to get smaller buses in the neighborhoods that are going to bring them from neighborhoods to the market and back.
That sounds like that should work out quite well.
This has been underway.
When is that going to be implemented?
I can't hear too good.
Okay, well, listen to the show. We'll talk a little more about it. Yeah, I think, both plans could actually work, because usually the central market type of concept is only open a couple of days a week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, and the model we're looking at
is an everyday one, right?
It has limited retail, but it has a commercial end of it. I mean, our downtown eateries and other small neighborhood markets, it's like a buying group, where you get case or pallet pricing, but you may not take it. So that's the model we're looking at. In fact, we just got off the phone.
What did you say again? It was
commercial. Yeah, it's a 7. You got to have from a financial standpoint, the commercial has to make it sustainable.
Right.
The retail is the icing on the cake, is the nice part. So the current model calls for limited retail, which is 3 or 4 days a week that it's open, but the commercial's the every day that keeps it.
What would be the commercial like, for instance?
You would be able to support your local bars, restaurants, corner markets, etc. I mean, not that they're not being served now, but
more or less the supplier, instead of having them trying to get suppliers from out of the area.
Correct. Or suppliers that, because they don't meet a minimum purchase to be competitive on pricing, this hub, it's called a food hub, is what we would, in most other communities that have developed a food hubs, very similar. Again, it's there as a hub to support the
And I really think the one you're planning will be more for downtown and
yeah, if you think about the 3 neighborhood groups we have around downtown. You have the best area, the Bayfront East Side Task Force. You have Little Italy and the Sisters of St. Joseph in Little Italy, and the Sisters of St. Joseph East.
Right.
And then you have our West Bayfront. You have the neighborhoods surrounding the downtown, and this market could support that.
And the other one, the market, if they do that down to convention
Correct.
center, that's going to be kind of like for everybody that
and that
people
market
passing through and
that market there may also not maybe have food, but they may have non-perishable or non-food items.
Or like a department stores type
and
thing.
Or maybe there's local artisans there, or maybe there's X, Y, or whatever.
I kind of like to, you've been out east, right?
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like to see it modeled on somewhat like Lancaster or Allentown.
We've met with both, correct?
And even there they have a mix.
Right. Now, they all told us when we met with them that they started one way or the other, then they adapted per their community. As of today, our goal is to make it 100% food unless the need moves elsewhere. But we have a lot of, and a community, a lot of people call us all the time about, supporting our local farmers and our local community and our local economy. The growing season is rather short here, but this type of hub could literally allow that to happen. When you're in the growing business, you want distribution or selling opportunities.
Yeah.
And this hub could be yet another key selling opportunity for
Sure.
you.
I mean, and those farmers could, like, hypothetically, depending on the timing, they could be there for a couple of days. They could be down to various neighborhood farmers markets. And then I just think, people, I think people would like to see it,
Well, it goes back to the point you made earlier, Kaz. You have to support. The temptation of Amazon and Walmart, we get it, I get it,
But it's hurting.
It's hurting brick and mortar. If we go forward with this, I have nothing against a chain restaurant, but I just as soon eat at a local restaurant, because if I've eaten at one chain, I've eaten at them all.
Yeah.
You can tell I've eaten quite a bit. But what I'm getting at is, I think you have more of a community when you're dealing with your own, your own restaurants.
They all come together to help their help
Right.
their local business.
And we had a brand new business just open up yesterday called Pepperoni Polly's. It's on 14th and State. It's right where the 814 used to be, right where Gelati's used to be. Pepperoni Polly's opened last night to be open for Roaring Ashore.
They still come down for Steve-O's all the time.
Yeah. So, but it's more
even like they put all that money into the business where they got Domino's down there. At least they did something with the building, and it looks 10 times better than what it ever did.
Yeah. So my point I was trying to get to is we really another vacancy, no more vacancy. But you have it. Yes, it's a restaurant for now. But again, look what it can do for the economy. But it's still a locally owned. And these are the business owners that are the ones that are sporting. They're sponsoring the local sports teams. They're sponsoring the local car shows. They're sponsoring this event. They're donating to that event.
Yeah,
they're the backbone of our community.
They could donate a little bit, and then it helps.
They're the backbone of our community. I don't care if you run a landscaping business, a food place, retailer, clothery. You're the backbone of the community, and we as residents need to support this.
When we were in, where were we last year? I think we were in Lancaster. Yeah, we were. We were in Lancaster for the league. It was funny.
We get to host that this year.
Yeah. You're going to be there, right?
Yeah, I talked to Jill this morning about it. Yeah, coming to Erie.
A lot of people, when they first had it here, were a little skeptical because of the distance. They think, like, we're Eskimos up here. So we told one guy in Pittsburgh, he's a city clerk, not in Pittsburgh, but one of the suburbs. We were sitting around it was Curtis Jones and I and a bunch of us that go to every one of these, and he's going, they moved it late in the year this year. And he's going, you guys are liable to have snow. And I said, don't worry about it. If we have 6 inches, we can handle that.
Yeah, we're used to that.
So we were going to buy him a little snow globe.
Nice.
We should probably give everybody a little snow globe as a joke, laugh at ourselves. But once they came up here,
they saw it and they fell in love, didn't they? Just like we did.
well, they actually fell in love with stuff we would think was silly.
Yeah.
They went on a little boat just from the dock over to where we were having the dinner that night. Very short run. But they got to cruise the bay, and they're going. The one guy asked me, he says, that's not a very big lake. And I go, well, that's because that's not the lake.
That's just the bay.
And he goes, what do you mean? Where's the lake? I said, the lake. See that land over there? I said, the lake's on the other side. He said, what's on the other side of that? I said, Canada. And he goes, Canada? I said, yeah, Canada.
I have to share a story. I tell this to many people I talk to, because this to me encompassed, to your point, Kaz, we take for granted. We love our sunsets. We love our peninsula. We love the other assets. But part of it we take for granted. I was coming back from a trip, driving up 79 North, and pulled into the rest area right near Edinburgh. And we provide these downtown walking maps. People can tear them off and use them. They're online, they're mobile. And I just was doing a double check to make sure that they were out, the current and stuff like that. And there was a couple standing here, and I would guess they're middle-aged. And the attendant was answering some really good questions, and the woman just goes, all I want to do is put my toes in the sand. And that to me says that we have this opportunity. This is all nice, but they want to put their toes in the sand.
Yeah, just
And we need to satisfy, because that to me is a missed opportunity if we don't.
keeping it simplified so that's easy to find, and they have that opportunity to do that.
Correct.
But get back to your comment, when we were in Lancaster, somebody was, I don't know why, they were looking for a chain restaurant, like an Arby's or something. Couldn't find one. Could not find one downtown. Some guy, we asked them, just for fun, we asked somebody, they go, I think there's one, well, not quite sure, he goes.
It was confused, yeah.
But everywhere you went, and they had old buildings to repurpose, 100-some-year-old building, 200, And I said, now the young kids, they don't like when I talk this way, and I said, we wiped out a lot in Erie.
Right.
Way back in the 60s when they had the urban renewal. Theaters went out, all these buildings. You look back today and you go, man, they could have been repurposed. Because you go to like the Plymouth Tavern, and you look at, people love the brick walls.
It's a wonderful place.
It's got rustic atmosphere,
Good food, too. I mean,
yeah. And that's really what counts.
Right. I used to travel frequently. I mean, I lived on airplanes and lived out of suitcases. And when in my travel, you would always tell who was local and who wasn't local. And I'd always say, and I'd answer this question, and this is the question, this is one of my goals I want to do for Erie, and how everybody, you don't need to answer this, but answer this question. I'm in your town for one meal. What would I eat, and where would I eat it?
That's a good one.
Most communities don't say, no offense to a chain restaurant.
Yeah.
What would you eat, and where would you go get that? That, to me, is what I want to keep working on for this community. Because some people can answer that. Might be Oxrose, might be a Smith, don't know. But I'm saying, there's the goals that we have opportunities.
And John, before you existed, it used to bug me. And I worked at parking lots when I was in college, and a little bit when I was first married for an extra job, And two things I noticed. There was a lack of direction, how to get to downtown,
right,
and how to get out of downtown. Not that you want to, but at the end of the day, when the concert's over, okay, you don't want to...
You get out.
Well, properly, but two things that they lacked, and I used to tell Casey this, and he'd get all upset. I went to Roanoke once, and they had this event, and they mailed it out. Oh, no, they had it in every business. Picked it up, and there was a Civic Center events for the month. But on there was a map of the downtown area with sponsored organizations. Joe's Restaurant, Taco King, but none, whoever wanted to sponsor. And I'm saying we missed that. Plus, I used to say to people, I tell, like council and the mayor, I said, you really need to educate the people. We don't have as many here, but like parking lot attendants, and have like a little workshop, bring them downtown for a meal and say, when you get, and I used to get this question. Here's what I used to get. We got about an hour. Where do we go? Well, and I always say to them, well, what do you like? Okay,
right.
Are you real hungry? I'd never send them to a chain if I really could.
Right, keep them something more local.
Yeah, I tell them, head over here, this is a nice place, And then we had a little more options.
Right. Well, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I don't want to. Two things I want to clarify too is it's not that the chain restaurants don't support us. Don't get me wrong.
No.
It's not like they're not welcome in this community. Please let me just clarify that.
No, I
just
don't say that either. But
right. But to your point, people are experiencing your community for a reason, and part of experience is with the community is a local restaurant or a local business. It may be beach related, it may not be beach related, or it may be a restaurant, it may not be. But again, it's that localization is what they want to experience.
Well, it's the persona of the city or persona of the area.
Yeah. People can look at trees, they can look at architecture, they can look at people. But there's groups like Visit Erie, they do a really, really good job of bringing people far and wide.
Too is like when I first moved to Erie and such was, I went to college, I went to EIT here at college here, and then I went and started working at one of the local electronic shops. And a lot of the people I talked to and stuff was, Erie wants to push the whole area wants to be more of like a tourist town. But then it's like it doesn't see back what its roots are. And that was the original impression I got of Erie originally, which then it's, well, what do we have here for tourist town? The peninsula. But then it's like also there's a lot of what used to be here and what's here now was a lot of the local community, like a lot of the bigger businesses or a lot of stuff that was manufactured or built here that could be grown and built more again, like a lot of the local and small businesses.
Globalization has hurt many communities.
Right.
Period. Ours is no different. when you have global corporate employers such as General Electric, Lord Corporation, and many others existing in our community today, you're always going to face this challenge. But you have to have a balance. You can't be 100% manufacturing, because
Right.
as that manufacturing in a global economy and those global marketplaces compete, it makes it a challenge to retain. So there's a balance there, that there has an aspect of tourism that needs to be, but that tourism is an economic dollar
Right,
that can
well,
bring
that
the
also
revenue in, that can keep the infrastructure intact,
Yeah, but that
and
shouldn't
or
be the
attract
main
more
focus of it,
manufacturers. It is not the focus. See, there's the misperception.
See, that's what-
Everybody
that's what I would
thinks
see is that's the main
it's all
focus.
about, exactly. So when we're engagement and we have opportunities like this to educate, that's the purpose. There's apparent, they always say perception is reality. Yeah, you're seeing it because there wasn't much. Now you're seeing it because we're doing more
filling
of it,
that
but it's
void.
not all we're doing. I mean, there are other efforts out there to increase our manufacturing base. Do not get me wrong.
You flash back to the 50s, when this was a manufacturing town, except for the peninsula. Waldemeer was a non-player, except with the locals, and nobody really thought of much about, you couldn't even find an Erie t-shirt. Okay?
Right, because it was all mostly manufacturing. That's what
Yeah, nobody
supported the area.
really, it was a hard-working, gritty town, okay? And all of a sudden, when that dried up, people started looking for, we got the waterfront. Think if our founding fathers, not the founding ones, but the ones back in the 50s, and we've had studies in the past, but they never really addressed it because it wasn't
It wasn't the thing to do back
yeah.
then.
But if we would have taken advantage of our biggest liability, and you'll disagree with me, maybe, our biggest liability is being stuck between Pittsburgh, Buffalo, and Cleveland. Now, it's an asset, but it's also a liability.
Right.
It hurts us because our airport's not going to get too big.
Right.
We can't get too big in certain areas because the infrastructure that around us, prevents us from getting big. Like if we were an isolated city in the middle of the state with this size, we'd be in better shape.
Yeah, we'd be able to grow more. But the
Right.
thing is, being trapped between Cleveland, Buffalo, and Pittsburgh,
But think
people
of,
stop here as the middle, but then they go there for the larger city events.
but think of the Commonwealth that had gambling years ago and said, hey, you know what? We got this little town Erie sitting there on the lake, trapped between three major metropolitan areas at the time. They all were pretty big, Buffalo too. They still are, but, why don't we make this the Branson of Pennsylvania?
Yeah.
I thought about that once. I'm going, we always complain about it's nice that we can go to Pittsburgh to see Major League Baseball, but, and you can go to Cleveland to see baseball, and you go to, the various cities to see big-time entertainment, and that prevents us a lot of times from getting some of that, because,
We're not big enough yet.
well, no, it's not that. They look at, why should we travel 100 miles into Erie when, TSO is a prime example. They could stay an extra day in Cleveland. Why should they come in Erie? Until we built the arena bigger,
Yeah,
But
they have room.
a lot of that is, it's like if you're sitting there like Roanoke, Virginia, okay, and there's nothing really around you for a couple hundred miles, okay, you're a player. People got to come to you to fly and all that. In Erie, you got options. You can go to Buffalo, Cleveland, Pittsburgh to fly. And the airlines know that. And so do the entertainers and all that. So it's an asset, but in one hand, but a liability in the other. But think if we would have taken advantage of it and say, you know what? These people, like Pittsburgh people, love to come up here. Right? The lake.
Oh, yeah, it's like finding our niche.
Yeah. And we just never, now we are, but we never took advantage of that. We didn't believe in ourselves. I still think Erie has an inferiority complex sometimes.
Yes, I think it does as well. And I also think some of the older community and or a lot of the areas, this is how it's always been, how it always will be type attitude as well. I've seen that a lot as well since I've moved in the area.
Yeah, it gets that way. I think.
But I think that's everywhere too.
I think a lot of the out-of-towners that come here, people like my wife that weren't born here, they get a different perception. They look at my daughter's probably one of the biggest critics. I should put her on a committee. She sits there in Minneapolis where she lives now, and she laments the fact that things haven't changed yet. And she sees all the potential, like you do, and it bugs her. It really bugs her.
Well,
but yet her job took her there, okay?
Right.
Because she was a ballet dancer, and you're not going to do that in Erie too much.
No, there's not a market for it. Well, the biggest thing is a lot of like my generation and younger, they also have this instant attitude.
What?
You know, they have the instant gratification.
Oh, that's
You know,
true.
They kind of want it, you want it now and right away, not, we've got it in the process, it'll come together once it's, all the work, everything comes together. Not, it's not right now, we don't want it right now.
Hey, I see progress in the last 20, 25 years.
Yeah, I mean, I have to laugh a little bit because 4 years ago I caught a presentation that John Oliver from Visit Erie did. And he had gone through and all these numbers, before and after. And a lot of the after, he said, what's unique about everything we talked about is none of this existed 20 years ago. So yes, change has been slow coming, but there has been change.
Right.
The challenge we now have is how do we make more change? Because the status quo has got to go. I mean, we no longer can sustain our community thinking of yesterday.
I can remember people said a comedy club would never make it in Erie.
Yeah,
Look at the
Junior's
success.
doing
One of
great.
the hottest.
They took over an old furniture store.
Look at the success they made. Yes, there's risk and a reward, but they couldn't have done it without the community support. And I say to the entrepreneurs who take the risks, and we as a community need to literally follow them and literally support them, because with that, that's what's going to help elevate the community.
Biggest thing I think I learned when I took marketing in college, I took a couple courses, and just being in business is you got to find a niche.
Finding a niche.
It's just like, how many chicken places can you have on Peach Street?
Right.
Or burger joints, right? So, when you get somebody that's I'll give you an example, like downtown Erie. For a while, I used to I still love North Park Road.
Mm-hmm.
You had a high-class French restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
You had the cafe, which was a little bit of sidewalk cafe, every day for
American
everybody.
food, so to speak.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing fancy, nice clean place, good food.
Reasonably priced.
Right. Catfish Kitchen on the corner, a little different.
Molly Brannigan's around the corner.
Right.
Irish place.
And
Yep.
the Thai place, Cow Thai.
Downtown, yeah.
Everybody had something a little different.
Oh, it was their own niche, and that way you had your diversity.
And when I was working in when I was working as controller here, it was nice. You had Molly's around the corner, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you had, you go down the line, you had a couple further down, and having that niche was nice, And I tell people, you can't have 8 pizza places all served. Steve-O's a prime example.
Mm-hmm.
He's got New York style, Chicago style, Riker style.
Yeah.
Or now that you got everybody comes in with something a little different that.
One other aspect, Kaz, that why that works well is that they're all clustered. There's the difference, there's diversification, but there's also they're clustered so that you can serve, but you don't have to go
Yeah.
So
to
they're not
different places.
competition as
Which
much,
bring-
but they also can work together to
Right.
make the area grow.
And those owners, you'd be surprised, and this goes back to all of my tenure, those owners do support each other. There's a culture that exists in downtown. If you're running low on ones, or if you need help, you're short-staffed, you'll see them helping each other out. And that's what makes a community.
Which brings you to my main gripe. Years ago when they talked about putting that food court in Boston store, I loved it. The international idea,
Mm-hmm.
I've seen them in other towns, like, Roanoke has one like that, but it'd be nice, to be able to walk in there at lunch as a worker and saying, hey, what kind of mood am I in today? Do I want a Cuban sandwich? Do I want some Thai food?
Could happen. We got a food hub we're looking at doing.
Yeah, that's...
That's the vision
I think
you
that-
got to
I think
have.
that's gonna be different.
And if there's that need, but people need to support that need.
Well, when's the plan of that being implemented or being put in?
It's being planned right now. I mean, we had a delay with the city, county, with the EMTA. It's the facility of the EMTA.
Right.
So we've cleared that hurdle, and now it's full steam. We were literally, last week, just got some great news from Bridgeway Capital is going to be stepping up and going to be granting some monies towards our organization to get us the technical assistance we need.
But they're in phase 2 on that EMTA now.
Yeah, that's phase 2. We're talking, ours is going to be phase 3, but we got to get our plans.
Right, phase 2.
It's going to, they're going to, they're up there. I just drove by it twice today. I mean, the big hole it's moving.
They'll move it.
Yeah, and so we've got to finalize our plans, get all the businesses secured. I mean, we've got a year's worth of work that we need to do, but ours is going to be phase 3, so you're going to talk 2019 or so. But
But
again,
that's not for that part.
it'll be here it's July already, you know?
Yeah, it's a plan of works that things are coming together, which is good. That should,
Once you see the parking ramp going up, and,
right, that way you'll have the area to be able to bring
Absolutely.
things in.
oh, John, you only got,
So I didn't.
you got about 5 minutes if you
Oh,
want to.
Kaz, no, I'm here to respond.
Yeah, if you want to get anything in.
No, well, you know what? You were making a comment earlier. When we developed our master plan for downtown, and those exist online. Our plan's online, eriedowntown.com, the Erie Refocus Plan, erie.pa.us, your website, the Emerge 2040 plan. These plans are online.
Okay.
And they connect each other. They work very well with each other.
Is it easy enough for having other small businesses that are interested in being development downtown or being able to work with you guys, be able to just contact you through the website or be able the easiest way of joining in?
Yeah, I mean, all websites have the old contact us, and we do get the contact. We get the calls or the emails that say, "Hey, I'm thinking of doing this," or "Can somebody call me about that?" And we're responsive. I mean, that's our role. Or we'll direct them to this group or that group, or the Small Business Development Center here, Gannon University does a great job. The Erie Technology Incubator. I mean, so there's other assets here that can help spawn
tools
additional,
and stuff for people to be able to grow from.
Right.
When you brought up, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
When you
Cass.
brought up Velocity Net, there was a prime example. We have a revolving loan fund, which we lend out to businesses, and we check them out. They have to have the ability to pay us back because, the fund just keeps.
Right.
Oh, of course.
And then we invested a little bit. We don't make a lot of interest on it because it's really supposed to be out there, not sitting in a bank. So, we tell you the truth, we've ran out of money, okay? So when the project came up with Velocity Net, our man upstairs, Chris, came down and said, I got some money I can repurpose. I got the okay to do it. So that's what you have to do. You have to be able to repurpose. You can't just do what you want to do.
Right, you have to have a way to be able to get through the red tape to repurpose
So
the money that you
the
have.
feds or the state said, go ahead, So we had some extra money now. He was the benefactor of that. We would love, and this is why I say it would be nice if we could have some of the nonprofits help us out in other areas, because we would love to be able to grow that, put a few more bucks in that fund.
Oh, absolutely.
And invest in ourselves. And whether that comes from, the private sector helping us, but we need to, you're right, when somebody opens up and they come to John, they come to us, and they got a pretty good model, but they really need some help.
Right.
Well,
that's the other thing.
I'm not against giving it to them,
Can we, is there a way to approach a lot of these nonprofits to be able to entice them to help us donate to different options or give them options to?
That's another topic for another day.
Right.
But I mean, with the government cutting back on a lot of these CDBG and all that stuff, and back years ago when they were thinking different, they were thinking about reinvesting in communities. They have to go back to that. The cities all over America are being challenged.
Well, it's getting harder and harder because the tax base keeps shrinking. It's a different type of tax base instead of the huge companies, the manufacturers,
and also
conglomerates paying for it.
When I was at Gannon, they taught us guns and butter theory. Okay, if you're fighting a war, you don't have money for social projects. That's a bad word, social. Doesn't mean what it means. What it means is instead of funding security and everything heavy than you normally would have to, you can divert some of your funds back into infrastructure. I mean, the infrastructure in this country is in trouble.
Yeah,
okay?
it's falling apart.
And we got to find a way to. And what makes it better? Like John says, more business, more people working, more money. That's how you get more.
That and also making it more of a quality product, something that's going to last, not stuff that kind of back to the global thing. We're getting more to a global economy. A lot of our quality's gone downhill from what it used to be.
Oh, we're going to have one caller before we go off the air, it looks like. Sorry, Mike. Go ahead, caller.
Yes, I haven't been watching, and I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're going off the air, but go ahead. You get the last question.
Okay, good. What I want to know is, how the Warners bought all that property?
Yes.
Okay, so I live in Mid-City Towers, and right outside our back door is a great big wall, from the Warner. I was wondering if this, Mr. Buca, could somehow, since they're revitalizing Erie or whatever, wouldn't it be nice if somebody could paint a mural on that wall And when we leave our building, which is just a parking lot, it would be beautiful to see that. Now, I know it's the Werner, but maybe he has some influence and could do something.
You have a very wonderful idea. We've been exploring it heavily. A new mural was added to the back of the building, which is on 14th and State. We have a current grant program that we're under that we looked at doing it on the side of the Palace Hardware building on 18th.
Because you have done it around town, I've seen it.
Yeah, and where she's talking about it's definitely identified. I know the Erie Events Group talks about having potentially a large monitor in place where she's talking, but you're absolutely right. Public art in the form of murals, we would agree, and we are literally pursuing those to have at least 4 large ones done, one for each of our districts.
That would be wonderful.
Absolutely. I love hearing it. I'm glad to hear that you're thinking the same as we, because part of the beautification of downtown, we want to be part of a community that isn't as cold as concrete and steel.
It's right across the street from the Civic Center, so everybody would see it. But it would be nice for the elderly like myself to go sit out there and look at something besides a plain brick wall. So thank you very much for anything that you can do. And I'm going to hang up because I can't hear anything.
Maybe a nice monitor with movies on there too or something, huh?
Thank you.
I don't know, but something would be nice. Thank you.
You call Mr. Wells too and tell him at the convention center?
Okay.
Yeah, just tell his office, say, give him ideas, and, John will do what he can.
I'll be meeting with Casey later tonight.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah, it's, people come up with nice ideas.
Yeah, some you can implement, some of which, these are these plans. I mean, we talked about it. There's been many a discussion. A lot of it comes down to the opportunity. I mean, it's moving pieces, correct?
Right.
One of which is financing. Second, which is, control. Like, I just can't go out and paint a building. No. I got to get their permission. So, but those are types of programs that make people want to live downtown, work downtown, be downtown.
In the murals that exist on some of the buildings, I remember...
Look at the side of the Plymouth.
Yeah. Well, I remember the first one, it was on, I think it's side of Boston store years ago. Some guy did it on his own, or I can't remember where it was now, but all of a sudden it spurred that,
Or even like some of the ones, I know there's some of the paintings or murals on the side of like Cat TV or over by Union Station. They painted all those walls. It's a lot better than just, brick.
Go down 18th Street. They got ones with the Italian people from the neighborhood that did well. You go, right. When you're sitting there at the corner and you're bored, you go,
oh, you can see a lot of the different ones that are around, and it does make the city look a lot better and more inviting.
Absolutely.
Well, John,
Cass, thanks for having us on.
You're welcome anytime you want. If you want to come on again.
Yeah, thanks for.
Oh yeah, I mean we're here to support the city. This is what we do, and we can talk about the programs. That's fine. Whenever you just let us know.
Whenever you feel like you got something to add, you'd like to come on, just.
Well, thank you, Cass.
Yeah, because I like when guests come on here. It's like that guy with the grocery store. I said, what? I'll try to get John up here. So that you can ask him the question, which he did.
I'm glad he did. I'm glad he called in, and thank everybody who called in. This is the nature of it. Let's talk.
I think
we
they were
all live in the
listening
same
more
community.
today because...
Okay.
Well, it's the community working together.
Yeah. Cass?
Okay. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Feel free to come on anytime you like. Will do. And you got the seal now.
Yep. Seal's back on. Show's over. You gonna busy out the phone?
Do you normally...
Ladies and gentlemen, you have been watching the Taxpayers Hotline Show on Erie's own Government Access, Channel 9.